So the purpose of Campaign for Liberty is to infiltrate. We're the infiltrators now throughout all of society. We do welcome anybody and everybody. I'm talking a lot about the young people because I see as they grow and establish themselves and become professors and go to maybe get jobs in the media and participate in the internet. There's so much that can be done to change people's mind, and that is what's happening. But we do need a couple, I think, guiding points and definitions. One thing I've noticed over the many years I've been in politics is that the country seems to go in one direction. The people would prefer to go in the other direction. But what the politician says is always closer to what the people want, but the country never happens. You ever notice that? Politicians say things, but they do something else when they get into office. I have never seen, how often have you seen somebody get up and say, I'm running my campaign because I'm against individual liberty? No, they don't do that. I'm running because I like unsound money and I like inflation. They don't do that. They don't get up, even though some become very close to it. They don't say, I am a socialist. I want to socialize America. Nobody runs on that. Everybody says, I'm for individual liberty. I'm for property rights and all the wonderful things that we believe in. But the people have been hearing that for so long. But we're at a point now where people are, in a very healthy way, very skeptical of what the politicians are saying. So just because the politicians are saying it isn't necessarily going to get them into office. But the people are still going to have a struggle sorting it all out and finding the people that you can really believe in. So I think it's very important that we know what definitions are. If I believe in individual liberty, you should, if you're going to support me, you better know what I mean by individual liberty. My definition of individual liberty is your life is your own, and you can do with it what you want, and you don't have to you shouldn't have the government telling you what to do with your life at all. And if you have a right to your life, it follows that you have a right to keep what you earn. You ought to have an incentive to what you can earn, but you ought to have the right to keep it, which means, of course, there would be no income tax. And it would be assumed by all candidates in the country that you have a moral, honest government, which means they ought to have honest money. But what happens? The people who never challenges what we have, they might say it, but what do we get? We put the counterfeiters in charge. They get to counterfeit the money. They literally counterfeit the money. We would all go to jail if we did what the government does, especially with the money issue or any other issue. It's so easy for me to think about what government should be doing in this in a society where personal liberty is important. And that is that if you and I can't do it, the government can't do it.
Yeah, right.
If I can't steal from you, the government can't steal from you. I talked about that a long time ago, and yet it's a basic principle, but it's not assumed. You say, well, everybody runs on the Constitution, that'll bring us all together. Everybody takes an oath of office to obey the Constitution. Well, do you know they don't lose any sleep over not obeying the Constitution? Because they've been brainwashed. I mean, first thing, they may be very, very much aware of what they're doing and they don't believe in it. They believe in just playing these games. But a lot of them believe they're following the Constitution because they have been taught in our educational system that the General Welfare Clause means you can do anything you want. The Interstate Commerce Clause tells you you can regulate anything you want. And the monetary policy of the Constitution said the government can regulate the value of currency and therefore can print money. They go on, and they never question that they're disobeying their oath and they're not obeying their oath. They don't think for a minute that the president should not have under constitutional authority because he is the commander-in-chief that he can go to war anytime he wants.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the kind of thing that exists, but that is our job, is to change that. The Constitution, what is it? It is what it says it is. If there's Article 1, Section 8 that says you can't do anything except this, that's pretty blunt. If there's a 10th Amendment, it exists. And it shouldn't be that difficult. You know, we've been fighting this, and it's been a downhill battle, and I think we're at a turning point, or at least we're at a challenging point. We better turn. But especially from 1913. 1913 was a bad year. It was a horrible year. You know, here we had income tax in the Federal Reserve System. We had the 17th Amendment, which not too many people think about, but that was important. And then we had this Woodrow Wilson, the grandfather of the neoconservative movement, you know, talking about making the world safe for democracy, for humanitarian reasons. And just think of how many people died in the 20th century with all this effort to make the world safe for democracy. But it goes on, and yet, if we looked at the Constitution, we would find most of our answers. But today, we're living in a better time today because it is recognized that we have a problem, and people are starting to understand. There has been the groundwork laid a long time before the presidential campaign for people to know and understand and have heard of Austrian economics. When I went to the campuses and they started responding, if I bring up the word Austrian economics, or Mises actually getting applause, you know, it was pretty surprising. And this to me tells me that, you know, the intellectual climate is changing, and that is what's necessary. It's not the politicians that can change a country. 1 or 2 or 3 or a third or 51%, they can't do it unless the minds of people understand, and you know it's in your interest to have less government. And it's your interest to protect liberty. It's in your interest to say that personal liberty means personal habits and economic habits. It's not two different things. You can't protect economic liberty but not personal liberty. It's all in one. It's your life, and you should have a right to it, and the government should be involved. Understanding of what is the purpose of liberty. Some people say the purpose of government is to take care of the people, make people safe and secure. And they're always doing this. Our presidents have told us, my job is to make you safe and secure. Can you imagine what it would be like if every one of our homes were made safe and secure by the police? You'd have to have, you know, like policemen in your house and cameras. Yeah, we have too many cameras already, but there'd be more cameras, and you wouldn't be safe, and you wouldn't be secure, and you would be, you know, you would lose all your freedoms and privacy, the whole world. So the purpose of liberty isn't to make us safe and secure. We become safe and secure because we have our liberty and we exert those rights that we have to protect ourselves and take care of ourselves. They can't take care of us by a welfare state. They can't produce anything. They have to steal from one group to give to another. And it finally breaks down. It works for a while under a free society, and a free society, a relatively free society, there's a lot of prosperity. And it takes a lot of years to waste that prosperity. But we're at the point now they've wasted it. And the people know about it. And then something else has to be done. But what is the purpose of a free society? Why should we have our liberties? I think it's, for me, and this is my personal opinion, I think the purpose of liberty is to pursue excellence and virtue. Because that's what life is all about. And if you allow the government to decide what you should do to be virtuous and to produce and practice excellence and safety, they can't do that without the sacrifice of liberty, so that cancels out all the production. And of course, that is where we are today. We've consumed our wealth. We're a debt nation. We're so indebted. The only thing that's holding this whole economic system together now is an illusion of trust in the greenback, in the dollar. The dollar is still trusted as a reserve currency of the world, and we can print them at will, and they're still taking them. There's enough people taking them, although the Fed keeps those interest rates down, and they're inflating and monetizing debt. There's still a lot of people in the world who prefers the dollar to any other currencies. But that won't last. That will end. If that could last, let's say I'm wrong on that, and that the world will forever take our paper money. That means none of us ever have to work again. You know, just print all the money, just pass it out. Eventually the trust will be lost, and the trust will be lost all of a sudden. You're not going to have a lot of warning. You could lose it tomorrow or the next day if some idiotic thing happens in our foreign policy and we start bombing Iran or something like that. Who knows what would happen? But there's nothing really holding the dollar, keeping the soundness of the dollar, which, if that is lost, it's disruptive to the entire world economy. So that what we need, though, is to make sure that we're there to try to work the transition if all possible, to convert as many people as possible, to get people as engaged as possible, but not with the expectation that tomorrow or the next day everything is going to work out. People ask me, how in the world have you stayed up there for all those years? It's been put up with that. They say, don't you really get a little frustrated with all that stuff? I said, never do. I just have low expectations. That helps a bit. But the expectations that we have should be directed toward changing people's hearts and minds, and that is where we're winning. And that is why I am excited about what's happening at Campaign for Liberty, because they are reaching a lot of people. And fortunately, it's not, although we have a central location and all, you take an organization like this in Florida, they have a lot of freedom, a lot of leeway, and people do this independently, and there's so much that's going on. Some are running political campaigns, they get involved in a race, and they just move right over the same people that were in the presidential Campaign for Liberty, then into some type of a political race, and other things. Some went even into just studying, and getting small groups together and studying and reading economics. There's so many different things, but it's all spontaneous. But it is spreading like wildfire. Issues do, ideas do spread, and ideas do have consequences, and they are the most important. That's where we're winning it. We lost it in the 30s because Keynesianism took over. And our job today is not so simple, because we're trying, in many ways, to repeal all Keynesian thinking, because it's wrong. And the American people, fortunately, don't grab and hold and say, well, no, Keynesianism didn't work because now we want socialism. But you can see the danger. As Keynesianism falls down, you see the socialists move in. Oh, we'll buy this up, and the government better run General Motors, the whole work. So that is indeed a threat, but we have to give them another option, and that is what our job is, give them the option of liberty. And it's not like this is invented. I didn't invent it, and you didn't invent it. It's been around, it's developed over centuries, but in a way it's relatively new. If you look at all of history, most people had to live under tyrants. You know, the kings and the dictators of old, and even in the world today, it's mostly tyrants. And what have we done in the last 100 years? We've moved toward a tyrannical type of government. We can't use our property, we're over-regulated, we're over-taxed, and we're an empire, we're all around the world in 900 bases, 130 countries. So we keep moving in that direction, and it is up to us, though, to make the difference and show them that there is another option. This idea is a relatively new idea. We had a taste of it, and we had such great prosperity that we have been living on that prosperity for a long time, but right now we have shifted from living and producing on our prosperity to living on borrowed wealth and this deception that the dollar is going to last forever. So we're moving rapidly toward a climactic point in this. There will be some radical changes, and the challenge to us will be, are we going to outdo those who would give us tyranny? And some believe it's in the best interest of the people to have tyranny because the people don't know what to do. And I had congressmen tell me this. I would, one time when we had a bill and it was some type of a consumer protection thing, oh, well, you have to protect the consumers. And I said, why do you have to protect it? It's not in the Constitution. I gave him the arguments. He said, because they're stupid.